Welcome to this episode of Thrive with Us. Today we're talking about something that affects everyone, and that is money. We all think that money has to do with bank balances and that it's an objective concept, but it's not. Money is a symbol of so many things. Today I'm joined by Carla Gil, founder of Summa Accountancy here in Dubai. She's also been working with us at Thrive for the last few years, and we're going to unpack money from the psychological as well as the financial angle. Welcome, Carla.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, it was a surprise, but a nice surprise.
Tell me, when I said a moment ago that money is a symbol, agree or disagree?
Yes, I agree. I agree because it means something different to each one of us, and yet that's what the symbol is, right? Of course, we all need it. Mm-hmm. It's very important. Mm-hmm. But I think our relationship with money depends on so many things, mm-hmm. and is very attached to our values, mm-hmm. our habits, and our history as well.
Yes. So when we think of money as a symbol, this is something I definitely see play out in personal life, professional life, at the clinic. What are some of the things that money symbolizes?
Well, it can, so many things, right? It can be symbolize freedom, mm-hmm. independence, security, power. I don't know. What is it for you?
Yeah, I totally agree with all of those things. And I think money also can be seen as a symbol of love. Whether we agree or disagree on using money to buy love, sometimes people use it as a tool to feel connected and closer to other people. Love and caregiving, I would add to the list as well.
Yeah, true. I never thought about it, but yes, yes. And I'm sure you see it quite often here, right? Because there are many wealthy people living here. And many relationships are not base, but, a big part of it is money, right?
Yes, because as you said at the beginning, money is something that we all need. It's a tool that we have to use to exist and survive. And what I've observed in my work with couples is that people see it as this very black and white objective thing. We're fighting about money, and they think that if we can just balance our books, get on the same page with the budgeting and the spending, everything is going to be fine. And I'm sure there's a value in that. But at the same time, what people don't always realize is that the way that they view that money is very different. And so if someone has a history that kind of leaves them feeling that they need to hoard and hold on to that money because that's safety and security, and they're partnered up with someone who sees money as a tool for enjoyment and for independence, then they can butt heads. And it's an interesting area to navigate.
Well, now that you say it, I can give you my personal example. Mm-hmm. So my husband is from South Africa and from Argentina. So very different backgrounds, right? And when I think about what money means in my life and in my family, and of course, I decided to change a lot of the perspective about money that, I just inherited from my family, from my parents. Mm-hmm. They're very different. So, for example, Argentina had a big immigration in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and a lot of Italians and Spanish people came to Argentina. I would say over 6 million immigrants. Wow. And they all ran from, they left their countries because of poverty and because Argentina was promising land and was promising a better future. But when I think about how my parents are with money, I think about, I see that they can't enjoy it. Mm-hmm. So they suffer it. It's all about making sacrifices. Mm-hmm. And, you know, even though their situation changed, right, from my great-grandparents to now, the situation improved a lot. They still can't enjoy so many things. And I think that's family history, right?
Yes.
And, you know, when I met my husband, I realized that he actually doesn't mind spending money out when he goes out for dinner. Mm-hmm. And I never had that, you know, with my parents growing up. And then, you know, I realized that this is how he grew up. Mm-hmm. His father used to take him out for dinner almost every weekend, mm-hmm. you know, to try different places. He was a big foodie, and that's the way he enjoyed money. Mm-hmm. He used it for that, maybe not for other things, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't have that. So in that sense, you know, we disagree a lot, because I don't want to pay a steak 500 dirhams, mm-hmm, right? Mm-hmm. Or $100, but he doesn't mind. Mm-hmm. He likes the experience, and mm-hmm. he thinks it's worth it. Mm-hmm. So this is like a typical example, right?
Yeah, no, it is. It's something that I've seen so many times. And what I think is really interesting about what you shared is that the history and the symbolism and the meaning attached to money is through generations. So if your ancestors went to Argentina in pursuit of other economic opportunities and that kind of mobility, and they achieved it, there is still that sense, is what I'm hearing, that, well, you know, what if we lose it? It's better to be, you know, careful and mindful and keep that money there for that safety and the security. Even if we maybe have more financial means and independence than before, part of our family history is that we haven't. So let's be careful.
Yes, conservative. And also money is not seen as a thing of enjoyment, right? Mm-hmm. This is what I see. Now my siblings and I changed a lot, right? Mm-hmm. We are different. We actually laugh about my parents a lot. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, you just have it ingrained, right?
Yes.
And then, of course, you know, I would add, this is family history, and then I would add your environment. Mm-hmm. I would be very different with money if I was living in Argentina right now. Mm-hmm. But I'm living in Dubai. I have other opportunities. I have other income. Mm-hmm. And I have other social life and pressure as well, mm-hmm. right? So there are so many aspects to it. Mm-hmm. And even though, you know, we have... So we know what is right or what is wrong when it comes to money, or we think we know, mm-hmm. then there are so many factors that influence our spending, for example. Mm-hmm. So I think the social part and the environment where we live has a big influence as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And that environment can be, you know, which country we're living in. It can be which neighborhood we're living in. It can be who our friends are. It can be what school or other communities that we belong to. And I think, you know, it's important to note, I know a lot of people don't like hearing about the concept of comparison, because we're taught, don't compare yourself to someone else. You're living your own life. It's your own game and your own race. At the end of the day, psychologically, we are hardwired to compare ourselves. We compare ourselves to some people that we might think are better than us, and some people that we might think are worse than us on that indicator. And the types of comparisons that we make really depend on how we feel. So what I mean is, if we take money, for example, let's say that I feel that financially, I'm not very strong, right? I feel like I wish I had more money. What am I going to do? I'm going to look around and pay attention to all the people in my circles that are driving this or living this or flying here or eating there. And I'm going to continue to fuel this idea that I am not as good as I should be. When in reality, there are probably quite a lot of people, you know, speaking from a position of privilege, there's probably quite a lot of people that would aspire to have the same sort of financial resources.
They look up at you.
Exactly. But when you're feeling bad, you don't want that information or those comparisons, the downward comparisons. You want the upward ones. And I think that also in a global context, and we see it in the UAE as well, there's this keeping up with the Joneses. You know, it's a very consumer-oriented world that we all live in right now. And so if you see that someone every year is getting a new iPhone or a new car, or they're always wearing a different outfit or traveling every holiday, I would imagine that sometimes people stretch themselves, maybe beyond their capacity, just to sort of fit in. Is that something that you see?
Yes, and actually, now that you say that, money gives you status as well, right? And we all care about it. Even if we try to deny it, we care about status because we live in a society. And look, I'm not going to argue if that's right or wrong, because I think that is very personal. But I do believe that money should give us something else, you know, something deeper than status or confidence, which is, for example, security, right? You never know what's going to happen tomorrow. The world is not stable. And there are so many contingencies that we never think of. So I think that should be in everyone's mind, right? Money is important, and we should try save and have always a plan B, right? In case we have an emergency and we need it for something that is really important to us.
And I think you're bringing up a really important point, which is money is important because it is what enables us to provide for ourselves and the people that we care about. At the same time, money doesn't define us or make us any better or any worse than anyone else.
No, it doesn't, but many people don't look at it that way, right? Many people feel better, more powerful, and just happier.
Or less than,
yeah,
right?
with more money. And, fair enough. Many times I discuss this topic with, my friends and family. Does money make you happy? Well, I do believe yes, personally, but not because of the money itself, because it gives you the opportunity to buy time, to buy trips that you enjoy with your family, to buy things that you like using or wearing. And, if that helps your happiness, why not? Right?
Yeah.
But it's definitely a topic that is quite controversial, right?
It is. And, your views about whether money or not buys you happiness is pretty much in line with what the research tells us. So as a psychologist, and when I was working as a professor, we would talk about money at some point in time in the course, and my students would always ask, and they would often say the same line of, well, I would rather be crying under a bridge in a Ferrari than, I don't know. It's like a line that was very common. And the fact is that the psychological science says money doesn't buy us happiness in general for a number of reasons. First of all, you get a bump. So if anyone gets a raise or comes into like a chunk of money, they're going to feel great for a period of time. But what ends up happening is your standards and your expectations change, and the same amount of money that was really exciting and fantastic for you is no longer that great. Money can buy you happiness as well if it takes you out of poverty, because it's allowing you to have the basic things that you need. But what I find really interesting is what you said. Money, when it's used in certain ways, can increase your sense of well-being and satisfaction. Our most precious resource, I believe, is actually time. So if I'm able to utilize money that I have or designate part of my budget towards not having to do things I don't like washing up or laundry or going to the supermarket, then that is going to result in a bump in my subjective well-being. And if I'm using money to engage in activities, social activities, trips, any sort of experience that is so much more beneficial for our sense of well-being than buying something.
Yes.
Because when you buy something, even if it's something you desire for a very long time, you get over it eventually.
Yes.
It loses its newness and its allure, right?
Yes, definitely. No, I completely agree. I like money because I like enjoying time with family and friends. And I have most of my family is in Argentina, and the people I love the most, and being able to either travel or help them come here and have experiences with them, it's priceless. But for that I need money, right? So it's definitely important. But on the other hand, for example, I have 2 kids, right? The youngest is almost a year old. I made a year or 2 years back the decision. I used to work like crazy before, many hours. And I made the decision to, stop working on Saturdays and stop working at certain time. I know it's going to make a very small difference when it comes to money, and most probably not difference at all, but I would rather enjoy that time with, my kids that are growing up so fast. So I think we have to be very conscious about which are our values and how we spend our money and how we want to spend it. It's definitely important to have, and in this world, it's important to have more than enough, right? But also, to be aligned to what we really care the most, right? Time with your children, peace of mind, going to the gym. There are so many things that are also important for our well-being, and making an extra $1,000 a month won't really compensate for that.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing from you as well is that we evolve and our needs evolve and change, right?
Yes.
So you have been working in your current role. I think you said to me you started it 6 years ago.
In Suma, yes.
Yes. So you started Suma 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that you were working Saturdays and maybe Sundays at the beginning of that, because maybe the focal point was, I need to get this off the ground. I need to invest my time and my energy and everything to get there. And then now, having had your kids along the way, it's like, okay, this is working and maybe I could take it a bit more, but then I'm going to give up on this thing. And this thing for me right now is important. And who knows, maybe when your kids are a bit older and you have a little bit more time, it will be like, I'm going to go back and do more for Suma, or maybe it's going to be something else that's interesting to you in that time.
Yes, I mean, exactly that. So I would invite everyone to think about their relationship with money and how they like spending and their spending habits and why, as I did, for myself. And I think once your values are defined and you can actually figure out that relationship you have with money, then you can make better decisions, right? Because I'm not saying we shouldn't be rich and we shouldn't have a lot of money. We all should. I mean, it's amazing, right? I'm not going to deny that. But we also want to have peace of mind, be happy with our lives, and, just enjoy every day. And yeah, I mean, this makes a difference. And I'll give you one example. When I used to, since I work, or I have my own businesses since I'm very small. I always liked independence, right? For me, it's like a very important value. So what I do now with Suma is having in in a big part, independence, right? I have freedom, I have flexibility. I can, of course, in some way, I'm a slave of my own company, right? You know it because
Yes.
you also are, but you have that freedom that allows you to act and to do things as you need if you want. And that's very aligned with my values. And before, I worked for companies. I worked for multinational companies, smaller companies, and I was never happy. And I never understood why I was never happy. And maybe I was getting good salaries and good money, and it wasn't about that. The reason was that I didn't have the independence that I value so much. So, I mean, this is like, a great example, because a lot of people have big paychecks, and big bonuses, and they are not happy. Then they are slaves. They're working 12, 14 hours a day. Sometimes you don't have the choice, right? Sometimes. But yes, we have to think about, if it's worth it or not for our life and for what we want.
Yeah, and there isn't a one-size-fits-all approach, because all of us have different personalities, we have different values, we have different upbringings, we're existing in different circumstances, we have life changes that occur. So there is no, you must do it that way. But now I'm curious, as someone that has your own accounting business for many years, you've worked with many clients. Do you see people's values and histories kind of coming up in the way they make their financial decisions?
Yes.
Because, I mean, speaking from my experience working with you, I value your input a lot. And there have been multiple times, including this week, where I've called you and said, what do you think about X, Y, Z?
Yes.
So what do you notice in how people make decisions?
Okay, so what I love about my business and why I founded Suma is because I love the small and medium-sized businesses, the startups. I love that world, right? And I'm really interested in the entrepreneur mindset. So I do like when I get on a new client, I do like sitting with them often. And if I can every month, although they don't want to see me every month, no one wants to see that.
Especially at the beginning. I know we talked about that.
Yes. But because I want to understand how they think and how they are. And based on that, of course, that helps me a lot, first of all, to work with them, because, if it's a very straight away and organized person, I have to, direct the team to work in that way. Or if it's a more messy person, we have to take a completely different approach. And secondly, because then when I look at their financials, I understand their decisions better, more. And answering your question, I definitely see the clients that are more on the creative side being more impulsive with their financial decisions, because they just get a feeling, they follow their feelings more. And on the other side, we have the more conservative clients that, you don't see them making, decisions from one day to another one without really thinking about them. What do I think about it? I think when we make financial decisions, first of all, no one knows the future. And I don't know the future. You can analyze the market, you can analyze the history, but at the end of the day, we are all betting, right? We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
No.
Anything can happen. And I've seen clients opening their businesses just before starting COVID. COVID started.
So I just want to jump in and say something. I wasn't working with you at the time. Do you know what happened with us?
I think, tell me, because...
So Our clinic, so I started in one office that was small, then we moved to another office, then we ran out of space, and in January 2020, I took the decision, which was a stretch at the time, to open another clinic, which opened in February 2020. And then
Just before.
And then for me, for a number of reasons I don't need to get into, I took a very conservative approach for COVID. I closed both clinics before the mandate actually came out. So I just made this big decision, put all this money.
Yes.
And then boom. So just like you said, anything can change at any time.
Who would have known? No one. So yes, I actually took over many clients at that time that were desperate because they didn't know what to do with their huge facilities, the rents in Dubai, the staff they hired, it's also a responsibility to have staff. As I was saying, you can't predict all those situations. And I think a gut feeling is way more important when you are making financial decisions. And yes, I think, either option is correct. And at the end of the day, we all make excuses about our decisions later on, right? If we make a mistake, we will have the explanation about it. So we are all different. You cannot really, for everyone, it's easier to judge other people's financial decisions, looking at it from outside.
And the future.
Yes, exactly. Hindsight. But at the end of the day, you don't know what was the situation of the person at that time, what was the opportunity presented, what was the mindset, what were the expectations, maybe at the time it felt like the right decision. There is no, of course, sometimes you see crazy things that you say, no, don't do it because it's not really worth it. It doesn't make any sense financially. Even the projections are wrong. But other than that, I am with it, because I'm a very conservative person in many ways, but when it comes to making decisions, I don't think so much. I make it and I go with it. So yes, your example is great. What happened with COVID? Yes.
And so what I'm hearing from you is you notice that there are two kind of types and probably some subtypes, but there are the people who will go with that gut feeling and roll with things. And then there are people who are very methodical and meticulous, and their decision-making process requires a lot more to sort of get off the ground. Do you notice a gender difference in those two subtypes?
Well, in general, men are more conservative, I think.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. With money, especially when making such decisions. I think women, we are more guided by our gut and heart, right? And feelings.
Intuition.
Especially intuition, especially at the time of making the decision. But I haven't really thought about it now that you say it. But I do see, for example, two different businesses, same industry, and two different owner personalities, and huge difference in results, right? And I'm talking about the same revenue, almost the same, and a big difference in results. How they treat the staff, how the staff is happy or unhappy, how they use their resources, right? If they just spend the money without thinking about how are they using their money or not, if they are controlling their stock more closely or not. There are so many aspects to it. And, now that we are talking about clients, if you allow me, The entrepreneur mindset in the UAE has changed a lot in the last few years because of, first of all, the VAT implementation, and secondly, corporate tax. Most importantly, corporate tax implementation. I think now entrepreneurs are getting a little bit more conservative than before, and they're thinking more about their decisions because they know there is a immediate effect in their financial statements, and of course in the taxes that they have to pay or not. But I do think that the small business owner still think in terms of cash. So what is very important is the cash they can see in the bank account. And I know it's important, I know. But, many times, that is changing though, but many times, we of course, we put a lot of effort on the reporting we prepare for our clients, and many times they completely ignore the reports. I'm not speaking about you.
But you remember my email a couple of days ago, anything I need to know? You're like, well, just for your records.
Yes. No, but that's fine, because then I ask for a meeting. Yeah. Okay. I always try meet the client just to have a chat about how the finances are going. I know you don't want to look at each number. It's annoying. That's why you're hiring an accountant, right? But I do want the client to be aware of how the business is doing in terms of accounting, because that has an effect on, the taxes. And of course, that speaks about the performance of the business. If they want to sell the business or, they want to get investors, they're going to look at those reports.
Of course.
So I still, make an effort. I push the clients to look at that more than or besides looking at the cash they have in the bank account. That I know it also means a lot, right? Because cash is resources, immediate resources.
Okay, so I'm hearing from you that there are some kind of differences in the personalities or different subtypes of people when it comes to decision making. And what was really interesting for me is, whenever I meet someone and they know that my background is in psychology, their assumption always is that I'm just like analyzing every single thing about them, which is not true. I mean, we notice things, of course, but I think everybody does when they're having an interpersonal encounter. But as you were speaking, I'm like, Carla, is that what you're also doing to us? You're like, this one is a bit messy. This one is a bit reckless. This one goes with their gut.
I can't help it because, of course, if I care about what I'm doing, right, I could just be getting, work done, not even meet my client and submit reports. But for me, because this is my passion, what I do, but it's more than the accounting side, because now it's boring for me.
Yes.
It's more about, how the businesses grow and why they grow and who is behind those businesses,
Do you then have stories? Like if you're, meeting someone in general and you find out something, a lot of times we will make assumptions as humans that this person must be like that.
Yes.
Do you do that too? Where
Yes.
you're like, okay, he or she is making this kind of decision. I bet that blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
We all do it for everything, right?
Yes.
Even if you're speaking with a friend and your friend doesn't tell you the whole story, you assume something, right? So yeah, definitely I do it. But to be honest, I always have my best interest when it comes to my clients. I want to see them growing and doing good because that's going to translate on how I do as well, right?
Of course.
And if I can be of any help in that process, I feel very happy about it because as I told you, this is my passion. But I definitely think about their relationship with money and why they make those decisions. And actually, while you read financial statements, you can make a lot of assumptions, right, about how the business is doing and about the owner who is behind it. Well, I hope you don't fire me after this podcast. No, but
as long as I'm not in the messy category, that's just the important thing for me.
No, look, it's natural. It's natural to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's enjoyable, and I think once I'm sure it's like your job, right? Once you figure out how the person is, then you are better at helping them, right?
Of course.
So
it's personalized. You understand the way that they operate, and you can anticipate what are some of the variables that are going to go into that decision making.
Yes.
And then give the feedback based on those things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, this is what we do. We not only we do accounting, also psychology of money, right?
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Okay, so you said something I thought also was really interesting, which is obviously the financial health of an organization has to do with like the balance sheet and all of these accounting terms that I probably am using incorrectly. At the same time, you said that when you look at two businesses in the same field with similar revenues, one of the big differentiating factors is something that's indirect and isn't going to be captured necessarily explicitly on that balance sheet, right? It's the environment that people are providing. So a lot of the decisions that we need to make as owners of businesses isn't just what's going to give me the best bottom line, right? Or what's going to insulate me from, having to do this and do that, if you know what I mean. It's making the environment as healthy as possible so that you can retain talent, and those talent also are happy and they come to work and they're productive and they do their best job.
Well, think about this. You have a business with a lot of rotation of employees. In UAE, for example, that has a huge cost, right?
It does.
Visas, insurances, gratuity, you name it. Then, of course, you have a happy and unhappy employee facing your clients. Your client maybe is not going to come back, or maybe your client forgets to pay and your employee doesn't care, right? So there are so many things. Your stock not being looked after. You don't have stock, right? But I have a lot of clients that manage stock. So behind that, you have either happy or unhappy employees that look after stock as if it was theirs or not. So yes, definitely making money if you count on other people, right? It's not only about you and how you manage the money. It's about how you manage the whole organization. It's very difficult because you will always have an unhappy person there or a toxic person. It doesn't matter, the effort you make. But yeah, I've definitely seen. And of course, here you have a lot of industries which are more difficult. The employees, even if they're happy, they would leave your company for 1,000 dirhams. It happens a lot that you can't control, but you can control what is within your organization, your relationship with your employees, and actually to help your employees to show, the value, the mission, and the vision of your company as you have it in your mind and as you want it. And that eventually makes money.
Yes. No, definitely. I think there is a return on investment for that. But I think if, and I'm no financial expert whatsoever, but if you're going to be guided only by the amount that's there in the bank account, sometimes that may lead you to cut corners that are going to end up costing you in the long term, in terms of the environment, in terms of the retention, and in terms of not just keeping the clients happy, but having clients come in to begin with. Because who are the representatives of that of most businesses? It's the people that are on the ground. right?
Yeah.
It's not the business owner in most cases.
Exactly. I mean, you will. The employees that work for Suma could tell you I am very strict when it comes to relationship with the clients and what are the clients' expectations, and how is each client and how we should, be with each client. Because I think it's extremely important, especially when you provide services. And especially in this country, people are quite sensitive when it comes to, receiving services and actually giving feedback. They're quite explicit.
And this is an emotional or emotive type of service to be receiving. It's accounting. It's about something that we've already said is like a very important element of our existence and our operations as a business. So the sensitivities, I would imagine, are even heightened.
Exactly. So, and we didn't speak about that. We, as Suma, we work in an industry that, is money for people in general is a taboo, right? People don't want to know how much money you have in your bank account. You don't want people to know how much money you have in your bank account. And you don't want people to know how exactly you manage your money because they're going to judge you, right? And we can see a lot of that, right? So especially in the beginning, the clients are quite, hesitant to give information or to disclose, the full picture. Little by little, we get it. But I completely understand that because it's something so personal to each person, right?
It is. It's very exposing. And, when someone works on your accounts, they know things that nobody else knows. Not that it's necessarily a secret or anything like that, but it's very private. And I think, depending on your history and your environment and the values and the way in which you were raised, a lot of us were raised with this idea of don't talk about money. And then with you, we have to. And then, in public, as we were talking about, the way that people maybe try to keep up with one another, you might be existing publicly in a certain way, but you know what's happening underneath the hoods.
Yes, exactly. So you see, they feel exposed.
Yes.
Almost naked.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I understand this. I completely understand it. For me, I've been working with this for so long, almost 20 years in accounting. I'm very used to it and how, to manage these situations. And I'm used to how people receive, my feedback and how people are in general when it comes to disclosing information like that. But yeah, I mean, we are all very cautious when we speak about money. Look, even with friends, for example, like I'm so used to knowing how much people earn or have that to me is not such a big deal. But, I see it in my group of friends, like no one really wants to say how much they earn. They love saying what they can't afford, feeling sorry for themselves or, but the part of how much they earn and how they use their money is like, wow, no, we don't talk about that. Yeah. So, yeah.
It's very taboo. And as you were saying, in your group that maybe they will say, oh, I can't afford this, I can't afford that. The funny thing is, I bet that different people have different thresholds. So there might be someone who's saying, I can't afford that, because if you actually look at the incomings and outgoings, no, yeah, we definitely can't afford that. But there might be people that might have more of a scarcity mindset and they've got loads of flexibility, but in their mind with their goals and their way of managing money, they're like, I can't spend that
on that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then you look at their finances and they're spending the same amount of money on something that maybe in my eyes is useful, right? So yeah, I mean, it's quite funny actually to start digging into that. But again, you can't really judge it because that person has different values and history and, social environment and priorities. So, it is what it is when it comes to money.
All right. So I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions, just your knee-jerk reaction. Okay? All right. I have them on my phone. What is the best money advice you've ever received?
Throw the money as if it was a boomerang, it's going to come back.
Okay. What about the worst money advice you've ever received?
Save money just in a savings account.
Okay. Saver or spender? Which one are you naturally now?
I would say spender.
Okay. If you could only use one money rule for life, what would it be?
One money rule for life. To have always a plan B.
Okay. A small money habit that makes a big difference.
Saving every month as much as you can.
Okay. A financial myth you wish people would stop believing.
That to make big money, you need to be smart or intelligent or, have big brains.
Okay. What's one book, podcast, or resources you recommend about money?
The Psychology of Money. I think the author is Morgan. I don't remember, but you know him, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes, it's a nice one.
All right. And then if money were no object, what's the first thing that you'd do?
If money
was no object, what's the first thing that you would do?
Travel.
Travel? Where would you go?
Everywhere. Okay. Everywhere, yes.
Okay.
I just wanted to make a note on something that you actually asked, that the stories about money that we know are always extreme, right? So we know the stories of Elon Musk and Bill Gates and all these, crazy stories, and the founder of Amazon, and, how they make so much money, Twitter, Facebook, but they are extreme stories, right? And we don't really think about, money in a normal situation. So I see a lot of people, aiming to, if I had, that person has big brains. But, it's there is an element of luck as well.
Definitely.
Yeah, when it comes to making a lot of money that we don't really consider when we think about money. So yeah, I just wanted to make that point.
No, and I think just to kind of add to that, in my view as well, there isn't again like a one size fits all. It's not like if you do this, you're going to be completely successful, because there are so many things that are outside of our hands. And I love that you emphasized this element of luck, because if you haven't achieved your goals, and also our goals change as we kind of progress, but if you haven't achieved your goals, that doesn't mean that you are not smart and that you are not hardworking. It could be a number of things that came together that just made it difficult for you to get there. So luck is definitely an important element in the
when it comes to making
progression
or losing money, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Carla, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate your insights.
Thank you for inviting me.
And again, for the record, messy or not messy? I'm thinking about my Dropbox now.
Not messy anymore.
Not messy anymore. Oh, okay. We're going to talk about this offline.
Thank you. Bye-bye.